Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our 650th online mentoring roundtable from 1 million by 1 million. 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. I run it from Silicon Valley, but our team is global. The entrepreneurs are global. It's been an amazing experience working with so many of you for so long. And today is an auspicious day for Indians. It's the Indian Independence Day. So happy Independence Day to all from India in India. Good evening to you. And let's get started. Today we have a repeat guest coming back, Jishnu Bhattacharjee from Nexus Venture Partners, a firm that I have been friends with for a very, very long time, and several of the partners have been here, over and over again. And the founder of Nexus was a very, very close friend of mine who passed away in 2021, and it's kind of suddenly and unexpectedly, and it really broke our hearts. But Jishnu has continued to lead Nexus, and Nexus is a pioneering firm in the India-US corridor. So we will talk today about what's happening in the AI investment world and what is Nexus's perspective, Jishnu's perspective on the AI investment thesis. Welcome, Jishnu. Welcome back. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Sramana, for having me back.
So I know you guys have been investing in AI for a while, actually long before the craze that kind of heated up. So I want to start by asking you not about the investment thesis today, which we'll come to, but I want to ask you to double click down on one of your very successful case studies, which is H2O AI. How did you get involved? How did that company come on your radar? And a bit more about what you've learned by investing in that company before AI became really hot.
Yeah, absolutely, Sramana. Thanks for asking. So, you're right. Our AI journey started long ago. Actually, we invested in H2O 2012. So that was before AI was fashionable. Now, if you look at historically 30, 40 years, AI, machine learning have been in the labs. A lot of innovation has been happening on math and science. What was the inflection point at that time, circa 2010, 2012, was the advancement of infrastructure and cloud, which enabled all those science to be computed and run in ways that is meaningful and practical for applications that human beings need for their day-to-day work. And H2O was one of the very early pioneers saying that I would like to bring in data science innovation and empower enterprises to make use of AI, not the academic labs or I would also say consumer technology companies like Google and Facebook at that time have started using, but the use cases were different. It was like, how do you find out cats and dogs from million images?
Yeah.
That JP Morgan may not care for much. So then the question was, how do you bring those to enterprise? So that was the inspiration, and everything we do, Sramana, hinges on, I would say, unreasonable entrepreneur, crazy entrepreneur who thinks that, hey, the world might think that it's not possible, and there are 10 different reasons to say why it's not possible, but there would be one reason that entrepreneur would see that it's possible. So we were fortunate to meet Sri Satish, and that's how the journey started. So I would say it was such an interesting window for us to see the evolution of AI, and now I will go back to talk more about H2O, but to tie the picture in last 12 years, over the last 3 years, AI has become real for many of us thanks to generative AI. At that time, I would say AI was more about predictive AI, which means AI was running more in the background. How do you recommend people something on what they should do, whether they're buying things, or they are watching movies, or how what would be the trend line for the businesses for the next 2 3 years,
Yeah.
or how what all unexpected events can happen, which can have disproportionate impact on what I am doing, how I'm running my business. So that was kind of how AI was being used for, I would say, pretty much a decade
Yeah.
before ChatGPT happened. So that's how H2O went about doing. Now, one important thing that they have done from the beginning, I would say two things. One is, when a new thing is being introduced into the market, what is most important is how do you drive the trust and credibility and people thinking that even if you build something, how can I use it? And how do I know it will really yield results? Because you can promise whatever you promise.
Yeah.
So Sri took a path of open source. And the idea was that, hey, people haven't seen it before, so they should be able to try it out in some form and let that into the enterprise workflows and use cases, get that technology inside the enterprises without needing to talk about contracts or talk about what all things are what all commercial stuffs would need to go in before even they can put their hand on the product and see what it can do for me. So I think that helped creating the market, I would say. And obviously,
I'm glad you brought that up, Jishnu. I remember many years ago when Sandeep was on this show, Sandeep discussed your firm's open source strategy as a separate, focus area. And I think H2 is also interesting because it is in the confluence of both AI and open
that is
source.
correct. That is correct. Very much true. Yeah, we have been fortunate to have backed by now 20 plus really successful open source companies, including an IPO. And what has especially open source becomes very helpful in situations when things are getting created, newer markets come up, newer use cases come up, newer technologies get adopted, because that's when people want to try out things. Now, of course, I am building a business. I can't, do charity saying that, okay, it's open source, you keep on using. I have to eventually figure out how I make money out of it. But the beauty is that what happens is if you can really build something which people start using and get value from, there will be many ways to say that how do you take part of that value, because obviously you are running it, you have to sustain it, you have to grow it. So that has been one of the core DNA of our firm, and that was also thanks to Naren, whom you mentioned about. He was on the board of Red Hat, and that's kind of like I mean, from 2007 when we were investing, from the very first year we have had open source investment because we kind of understood
Yes.
what all things it can do. Now, of course, open source wave has accelerated over the years. Actually, at that time there were not much examples of open source other than Red Hat, but now we had many IPOs, and it almost has come to a point that newer infrastructure things, newer technologies coming in, open source by and large remains a very important component, including this generation of AI that's going on, which I'll be happy to talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, open source and AI, you're right. Like that
Let
was
me
the.
synthesize this point for people who are listening. So the thing that we see in startups that are going the open source route, and this could be AI startups, could be non-AI startups, just open source startups. What is great is, people, especially developers with insights, put something out there in the open source realm and start getting usage. And then, by the time they go out for investment, there's a lot of history of usage often that has built up, and some of that has started to monetize, and there's a little bit of a monetization model that is starting to emerge. And even if it hasn't emerged yet, if there is substantial usage and value creation, there is a tried and true path of monetizing open source, commercial open source in a, freemium mode. Basically, people start with free and then become premium. In general, I'm not a big fan of freemium, but in the open source case, it's a different story because you're starting with a tremendous number of leads. Usually, a lot of them are B2B customers. So you are, it's businesses building applications on top of open source. So it's not such a stretch to think about turning, free projects into paid projects by applying the commercial open source principles like paid support, premium functionality, etc. And this is well understood in the investment community as well today, now that we have had a bit of this run. So that's what we are talking about here. And H2O AI went to market as an open source AI platform and has had a tremendous amount of success with that business model. So let's go back now to Jishnu, you, and talk about what is your current view of the world vis-a-vis AI, and where does open source play in that, as well as a subcategory of that discussion. But first, overarching discussion on what is the AI investment thesis from Nexus.
Absolutely, Sramana. So we are living in a surreal time when the impression that at least in Silicon Valley, that the Silicon Valley world is driving is everything is being driven by AI. Everything will be changed by AI. Of course, like anything else in life, this statement is also nuanced. But what has happened is, I would say, over the last 2.5 years, when November 2022, when ChatGPT came in, that was, I think, a very, very kind of unprecedented inflection point. Why? Because that was the first time when people started appreciating what artificial intelligence is.
Yeah.
Because that was right on the face. It was not like, what is happening, what is the trend line, or what is happening in the background, but it's like, okay, I need to write a poem for me, write an essay. Like first time people are seeing machine doing creative stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely changed the trajectory in terms of appreciation of AI across the world.
Yeah.
And that is not limited to AI practitioners, that is not limited to people who are knowledgeable about these subjects, but rather anyone and everyone with a computer can now appreciate AI. So I think that was a phenomenal, monumental time. Now, what happened is actually very interesting. If you look at that time in 2022, big companies, OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, later Amazon followed suit, and few others, they started driving a narrative saying that, hey, look, this is great. We are building artificial intelligence at an unprecedented level that machines can do a lot of stuff. But for that, you need huge amount of money, huge amount of resources to be able to put up any such thing. They coined the term foundation models, that you have to depend on those kind of stuffs and don't even think of building. That you won't be able to do it if you don't have all these resources. Well, that's where open source came in a very, very big way. So if you look at what has happened, there has been big companies, there has been big models which were built using web data and all that, and that started inspiring people on what is possible. But then over the last 2.5, 3 years, tremendous progress has happened in the open source realm of generative AI. And if you look at today, for many, many things, it is very, very understood and even like, practice that you don't need these such large language models from all these big companies. There are probably thousands of models which have come up, and many of those small, there is a term which has started being coined called SLM, small language models, which are very, very well kind of placed to serve enterprise use cases, task specific jobs to be done and all that. So this all is thanks to open source that is happening. That has led to citizen innovation. I think OpenAI AI deserves a lot of credit to open up imagination of human mind.
Yeah.
And the confidence that it can be done, because before they showed it, I think principles were understood. There were techniques and architectures coming up, but people still didn't have that confidence that it can happen. And then the pace of innovation has been just, unimaginable.
And I think because the hype cycle has been so rapid, enterprise buyers, business buyers have made AI a priority now, which was not the case, right? When you started doing H2O, it was not that case. It was much more niche, much more selective, much more difficult to get the buyer attention. And that has completely changed. AI has become one of the top items, budget items in the enterprise IT expenditure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So few things are happening, Samana, in the enterprise world. So obviously, two dimensions. Like anything, I think initial wave was driven by consumer adoption. I mean, all the consumer companies we know started adopting AI heavily, and they are rolling it out either as part of their products or separate product lines
Yeah.
that consumers are getting a sense, and they are even subscribing today. Enterprises, I would say, like, there are some use cases which enterprises are seeing ROI from directly at this point, which is about, like, automating automation in software creation, lots happening around that world. And I would say automation of content creation, like automated content creation. And people are seeing and getting some value. But by and large, the going back to the hype cycle, there is actually a lot of questions. Like, enterprises are spending money, but that's very much coming from, at least majority of that, from innovation budget and experimental budget. The sustained applications and use cases which will give them value, people are still figuring things out. So I think we are still 12 to 18 months out to say that, okay, these are sustainable budget line items, and these will be the applications which will be used, and this is the use cases, which people will get most value from. In fact, I would say, along with the hype, there is also another term going on already, is dehyping of AI in the enterprise, because there is so much things. In fact, the enterprise executives are almost getting overwhelmed,
They're overwhelmed.
saying that, what they will do, what they will not do. And there is also a lot of FOMO being driven. I mean, thanks to
Of course.
the marketing horsepower of corporate technology, corporate world, that people feel that, oh, if I'm not investing in AI today, my competence, my competitive edge will go down. But they don't quite know what to invest. If you look at, like, of course, as it happens, initial wave of investments are going on in the infrastructure side of AI. That, okay, for this AI, you need different computing units. At this point, it's mostly GPUs. And people are investing a lot on that. But proportionately, they haven't yet figured out, okay, these investments are good. I can tell myself, okay, I'm doing something here, but what are the use cases that will emerge? There are signs that it is going in the right direction. The timing is not clear, and as it happens, I mean, the investment world goes very excited, and which has happened in every cycle, is like people are imagining and people are investing upfront because they feel that, we can't wait till next 2 years when things get really clear. We have to preempt it and try things out, right? So that is driving huge amount of enthusiasm, and I would say even in some cases very hyped up irrational valuations.
Yeah.
Kind of what we saw in 2021, at least in select AI cases, AI companies we are getting to see.
Yeah,
So that's kind
absolutely.
of the situation.
So there's one other category I would add in the enterprise use cases that has some clarity, which is customer service, right? There is
That
the
is correct.
ROI is
That's
very
correct.
obvious, very easy to
I was
understand.
going to say that because we have invested a couple of companies in that.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, generative AI is a natural for, of course, there is the hallucination problem, but I think there are ways to mitigate that by training the system in domain specific, with domain specific constraints and so forth. So that's another category where things are more clear, but there is in the other use cases. So in fact, on that topic, there's actually a very good conversation we had last week in this same program about, there's obviously fear. There is FOMO, but there's also fear, actual fear of people losing their jobs on the ground inside of enterprises. People are afraid So there is a tension that is going on between the AI startups or the AI companies who are building applications for enterprises, who are being used by large numbers of people inside the enterprise. But normally when a software company goes into an enterprise with a product, there's a lot of give and take, lots of input that comes and to refine the product to make it better and so forth. And there's a tension right now is that these people who are using these products, if they train the product too much, they may lose their jobs. So that cycle has friction, that loop, has friction in there. I don't know if you have something to add to that point.
Yeah, there is friction. So I would say, of course, it's happening in a very, very much 10x scaled up way. But this actually is a case whenever any technology wave happens. We see that certain kinds of jobs are getting less important, but many more jobs are getting created. Like if you look at today, AI, I actually think that most of these AI systems which are getting adopted today, they are all, I would say, very good in exception handling and human in the loop intervention, not only for efficacy, but also to make the models better and all that. So, for example, a class of job category which was not there before is coming up, which is called prompt specialists or prompt engineers, right? I mean, what is that term? Nobody knew. It's kind of like 30 years ago when database administrators, DBAs or database specialists started coming up, right? So you will probably see lot of different kinds of jobs which will come up. Like many of the services companies are taking up jobs today, which are known as AI ethics monitoring, AI jobs monitoring. And I think we will be surprised on what kind of things people can do with AI. I think what will happen though, I'm sure about it, is in certain categories we will see shift of jobs happening. Like you mentioned about customer service, if the company can increase the efficiency to the level that they don't need that many agents before, they will obviously make those decisions. But I think the people who will get freed up from doing the regular basic question answering, they will get into at the judgment level, kind of like what some things which human judgment is still needed, and get you can't do by machines, right? So you will see those things, but in the short term there will be this shift.
I think it would depend on what time scale are we talking about, because inside the enterprise there are whatever application that you bring in, whether it's non-AI or AI, now everything is kind of in the AI domain. There are three things to consider. There's domain specific understanding of what's happening in that enterprise, and that includes domain specific vocabulary, domain specific workflow, and then domain specific API integration. So when all three of those converge, there is actually room for real automation, not just augmentation, real automation. And that we haven't started seeing yet at scale. We've started seeing a little bit of it. We haven't started seeing it. I have, as you know, I have been covering AI startups for a long time, much longer than this OpenAI hype. So we have seen companies. There's a company called Precision Lending that we covered many years ago. It was acquired, had a very bootstrap company that had a very strong acquisition. It's in the fintech domain, and they're really automated. I mean, thousands of people could be replaced with their software. It was an AI agent software in financial services. We've seen a company called Icera, which is a wonderful customer support company that is actually doing really, really complex, real automation, not just augmentation. And I think that it's that augmentation versus automation tension that right now exists, but it will, no matter what, as time goes by, that is going to mature, and augmentation is going to mature into automation, and no amount of prompt engineering jobs is going to mitigate for the job loss that is going to happen.
That is true. That is true. Like like the companies that you said, I'm on the board of Observe AI, and exactly that's what a lot of things they are doing. There is a company called Neuron 7, again in customer service area, and they are reducing their they are in the field service agents. Like if you have to serve an MRI machine, you don't need the best of the technician to go and serve it. A lot of things can be done in a self-serve way.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'll tell you, like, this is what happens when these technology inflection points happen, right? We try to only put the lens on how things have been happening, and on that lens, we try to see, oh, previously you need 10 agents, now you will need 4 agents. But I'm sure we'll get surprised what those 6 people can do. Now, what might mean is there is some sort of reskilling and upskilling that would need to happen. Because, see, at the end of the day, now, of course, there are also philosophical arguments that can be done on when AGI will come in, artificial general intelligence, and can human beings be replaced? Well, we'll see. But at this point, if we truly look at the transformer architecture, there is a lot of arguments to say that at the end of the day, it's just a stochastic process of predicting which words comes next, and then there are variations around that. So there is long ways that we can go, and there is a possibility we'll get there. But I do believe that many people who might quote unquote lose their jobs now, there will be a wave of reskilling and upskilling, and they will find out many different kinds of jobs happening even after automation, not necessarily augmentation, because augmentation is inherently is an assumption that they will be doing the same thing in a different way, but now they will probably do something else. But I am of the belief that there will be a lot that human will need to do
Well,
and can do.
one
you
of
know
the use cases of what you started talking about earlier on is this whole coding automation, right? There is a tremendous amount of technology developing that will automate coding. It's a natural application of AI. It's a language.
That's correct.
Programming languages are languages. That's what the generative AI does the best. That's really their kind of, that's where they're at their best. So this is going to go through tremendous automation. So what are millions of software engineers, coders, programmers, developers going to do? And my take on this is this actually opens up huge entrepreneurship opportunities, because now, you can really build lots of stuff with very few people. And you can, if you are of a developer background, if you understand all these tools and technologies, you can really, using the levels of abstraction that exist already.
In Silicon Valley language, this is solo billion-dollar companies being created. Like one can think of one person creating a billion-dollar company
That's
in line of what you're saying.
That
Uh,
is exactly
yeah.
right. So I think there is great opportunity for innovation at a much larger scale, and this is one of the reasons why we have been all along paying a lot of attention to solo entrepreneurs. Right now, we are paying huge attention to two things actually: solo entrepreneurs and bootstrapping with a paycheck. There is a tremendous amount of bootstrapping with a paycheck happening inside companies.
No, fascinating time. And see, the other thing, I always say, even for the kids, I tell my kids all the time is, as more and more we are getting these fascinating tools and technology and AI is becoming mainstream, I think drive to fundamentals will become even more important. Like when, previously, let's say 10, 20 years before, when we are growing up, the thinking would be, oh, let's become a Java expert. Let's become, C++ or something, and I will get a job. But now it's about much more fundamentals, because the fact of the matter is, even today, like, if you talk to expert software developers running their team, on one hand they say that AI is giving rise to efficiency, but on the other hand, one can, like, I'm hearing these things that whenever you are dealing with totally automated code creation, the people who are handling those or using those codes, they just don't know the inner workings and
Yes.
fundamentals of what is really going on, right? So you are abstracting everything out up, which means when there will be problem, there can be issues. When AI can't solve it, then you'll have to. So I think drive to fundamentals across subjects, like whether it is computer science, physics, life sciences, any kind of foundational thinking. I think now there is lot more you can do, that if you are great in foundational thinking, given that AI is leading you, giving you all these tools, you don't need to do a lot of other kind of frameworks type of stuff. So you can do wonders if you're a clear thinker and your foundation is strong.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So now, uh, other than H2O AI, have you invested in any other open source AI companies since?
Open source AI. So I would say we have invested 20 plus in AI companies, and many of them are in different stages.
Talk about some of them. How are you thinking about what to invest in? How are you
Yes,
selecting them? Do some case studies.
absolutely. So I
Let's
would
just
say
zero
that,
in on what's happening today.
yeah, and very, very true. So I would say two things. One, I will talk about the what we are calling AI stack.
Yeah.
So, so if you think of the OSI stack, which we have been running in enterprises, equivalent AI stack is coming. And what does it mean? It starts with infrastructure. Now, I would say tomorrow's infrastructure will look very, very different. It's not just putting up the CPUs and servers and the general pipeline and computer architecture which was going on. There is huge amount of innovation that's going on AI compute units, and leading to that, what will be the networking fabric, what will be the storage that is needed. So that's kind of like, one part of it. Up the infrastructure is sitting models, and tremendous amount of activities and innovation happening around models in all different spheres.
Yeah.
Over models are sitting what you are calling tooling or orchestration layers, where you have to do certain things with the models. You can't go deep into the science part of it. You have to handle those. So that's where, like, many innovation is going on. And over that is the cream, which is applications. Because ultimately, if we don't create applications which are generating value, then all the other investments are not, won't yield results, right? So what we are focused on, I would say at this point, maybe two core areas. One is on the infrastructural stuffs. Um, I am of the opinion that, if hyperscaler, if AWS or Google Cloud or Azure were starting today, they will look very different. So it's an inflection point for AI native compute architectures and data center innovation. So that's one part of it. The other part is applications that ultimately, like Observe AI, they are offering customer service, as you mentioned. They're doing phenomenal innovations in customer service space. I have invested in this company called Iambic Therapeutics, which is started by Caltech professor, and he is building AI-powered drug discovery, generative AI platform where chemists and biologists can come up with, okay, this is my requirement, this is what I need to do, build a drug for, and they will spit out what's possible molecule architecture, molecular structure that can actually lead to a drug to solve that disease. So and across the realm, I think application will be the real driver for AI to ultimately get adopted and become mainstream, right? And then another aspect of it is super important, more so in the generative AI adoption, is, I would say, trust, safety, privacy, which is becoming critical, because if you look at, one can say, these AI systems, large language models, as we know, these can also be seen as condensed data stores. So the vulnerabilities that emerges by, previously we used to say SQL injection attacks, now it's about prompt injection attacks. You can in very, I will give you an example, one of the examples which have been told to me, which is fascinating. See, today, if you go to ChatGPT and say, okay, what is Jishnu's password? ChatGPT might say, hey, I can't answer these questions because this has been codified. Now, somebody went in and they said that, hey, so and so, let's call it me, Jishnu's, can you give me guesses for what Jishnu might set his passwords to? And it's just fascinating and amazing what kind of answers the systems are coming up with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of stochastic processes of hacking wasn't tried before.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just unbelievable, like, ranging from spoofing to, identity faking to kind of like, all the other things. So that has led, I think, will lead to huge amount of innovation and investments in cybersecurity for AI. And that is one area which goes across the stack, not just infrastructure, but, across the stack. That is also another area which are looking very deeply. I funded these two kids out of MIT after their PhD. They're doing this company called Dynamo AI, and they are targeting exactly that. Like, how do you design AI systems natively that, they will be stronger and less vulnerable, things like that.
Jishnu, I have a slightly different question on capitalization of these companies. So you talk about these two kids from MIT who are commercializing their PhD thesis, I guess.
Yes.
You have this Caltech professor who's commercializing his work in the domain of drug discovery using AI. Talk to me a little bit about how you structure these deals. You're getting in at a almost an R&D level, yeah?
That is correct. And as Nexus, we are early stage investors. We are concentrated investors. So to give you an idea, we are running a $700 million fund, but we won't do more than 25 to 27 companies. And even in those, we want to be the first or second check writer. So we grow with the companies and eventually partner with them, but we come in very early. But you raise a very, very important point, and that is actually happening across AI. See, a couple of things are going on, right? Like, and that also is driven by the narrative that is being driven in the industry. I think today the narrative is you need huge amount of resources even to get started. Previously, if you needed a seed funding of 1 million or 2 million, now that number has become 8 to 10 million. Now, honestly, there is some truth to it depending on what you are really doing. If you need to, focus on your own infrastructure based on whatever application you are doing, if there are some other newer models you are coming up, yes, there is some truth to it. But many cases, actually, the innovation, both in the open source world as well as in the closed source OpenAI and Google world, AWS, and all the other kind of platform work that's going on, it's actually becoming not that difficult to come up with let your imagination fly. So I think the world is actually pouring in a lot of money, I would say, and there is this thing of there is a phrase that you use, oh, let's suck out the oxygen, so that also becomes a competitive mode. Honestly, perpetually we have seen in enterprises capital is never a moat, and I don't think that is going to be any different in the AI world also, because ultimately fundamentals will drive. Ultimately, everybody is constrained with resources. Now you are just changing the scale. You're saying, okay, 2 million wasn't enough, let's go to 10 million. Tomorrow people will say 10 million isn't enough, what I'm going to do with it. So while there is a lot of investment being driven, I won't be surprised many of these investments may not turn out to be what it's expected to be done, because we are actually seeing again zero revenue companies getting valued at multi-billion dollars, because of this sense that, oh, you need huge amount of capital to do it. So I don't think so. Fundamentally, there might be some nuances. There will be some cases you can say you need probably a little bit more capital at certain stage of your company, but you can still do it very, very efficiently and very thoughtfully.
Yeah, and I think the layers of abstractions are really important. The platform as a service model has emerged. It's been around for a long time, and I think the AI era also seeing platforms as a service emerge, and you can build on top of platforms as a service very efficiently. The real intellectual property is not in the infrastructure, it is in the domain knowledge, in the case of drug discovery, in the domain knowledge of the biology and the life science aspect of it. In the case of your MIT PhDs, that's, in that domain specific cybersecurity knowledge. So it's not in those multiple stacks of infrastructure where the money should go. It should be using existing layers of infrastructure, and then you can build companies in a fairly capital efficient way. I just hate, as you know me for a long time, I hate this overcapitalization of companies and really developing bad habits. And then when revenue doesn't match up with the capitalization, companies basically implode.
Totally.
And there's a lot of that.
One thing I have to say, you mentioned very, very interesting thing of how platforms are coming up and what all innovations people can do using the platforms. Now, actually, the nature of platforms are also changing. I'm working with this fascinating company called Postman, and today, we use a line, and which is actually very true in the company, is that every AI in the world, and probably will be true, maybe like canonically true, is that every AI in the world is getting consumed by an API.
Yes.
Now, if you look at, right, if all those innovation at the foundation level is getting codified into API and it is made available in whatever way, right, then, sky is the limit. For me, if I am having certain domain understanding, some innovation, some creativity, I can do wonders, right? So that way, the platform definitions are also getting spread out, getting disaggregated. It's not that I have to lock myself up into somewhere. I can use many different things as I'm putting things up. So lots possible actually without needing to depend on, like, capital is not the only thing. I mean, there is a narrative which is being driven that in AI era, you need a lot of capital. In some cases it's true, in many cases it's not.
Yeah, I don't buy that. Okay, so that's a really, really interesting discussion. I'm sure we could continue, but we do have pitches. I know you have to run as well, so we'll continue the conversation as all this develops, and we'll bring you
Absolutely.
back here.
Absolutely. And thank you for doing what you are doing, and really appreciate you having me here.
Pleasure, pleasure. We'll be in touch. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, folks, we are going to switch gears and go to the entrepreneur pitch discussions. We have one pitch that I know, that's Suman's pitch, and then Maureen, you will alert me what else is happening. I know there were people who were trying to get in this morning, and we'll see. So this is a safe working session. This, whether you pitch today or at one of the future sessions, we are completely on your side. This is something we're going to work on together. You don't need to be defensive. You don't need to be nervous or scared. I am on your side. My only agenda is to address your roadblocks and try to remove them and give you advice on how to remove them. Suman Biswas, please unmute your line and tell us what HourlyStay is.
Hi, Samana. Myself, Suman Biswas. Actually, HourlyStay.com, we have three co-founders, myself, then we have got Venu and Manish. They are also they have joined, but unfortunately they're in the guest section, so they are not able to present. So basically, HourlyStay.com is a hourly hotel booking platform. So myself being into sales and business development for more than 23 years now, and long part of that career I have spent in international sales, mostly concentrating on APAC and EMEA region. So travel has been an integral part of my career.
Yeah.
So many times during travel, maybe because of flight delay, or there's a brief layover, or you just need to go to a different city for a meeting, or sometimes while traveling internationally, you land in a city after a red-eye flight, and you need to spend a couple of hours. Oh, Venu has joined. So what happens is, currently we don't have any options apart from booking a hotel room for a night. Actually, if you see, if you need to spend 8 hours, that is from 8 a.m. in the morning till 4 p.m. in the evening, you have to actually book the room for 2 full nights, because hotels have a very stringent late check-in and early check-out policy. So this is what led to the innovation and the starting of this platform, which is HourlyStay.com. So someone, if you go to the next slide, there's a introduction.
Before we move on, I have seen this business idea executed. So this is a validated business idea. It is one that I believe the need is validated, the business is validated. It is happening.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
So I'm with you on the need for something like this, and I think it's a significant need.
Yeah. So like I said, it's a innovative platform. We want to offer a hourly hotel booking system, both on website and mobile app in Android and iOS. And it is not only good for the travelers or from the customer point of view, because they are definitely saving a lot of money on hourly booking or booking in a slot for just a few hours instead of spending for the whole night. If you see from the hotel's point of view, 70% is a very, very high number when you talk about the occupancy rate. So at any given point in time, at least 30% of the rooms are empty, and the hotels doesn't have any means to monetize these rooms.
Yeah.
Or early check-in and late check-out rooms, and early checkout and late check-in rooms. So those rooms also, suppose your flight lands at 10 p.m., but your hotel room is booked from 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So from 2 to 10, this 8 hours, the room is just empty. So hotels don't have a ways to monetize this, late check-in rooms. Through our platform, we can do that. So this is the problem that the customer is facing. That is the limited availability of short-term hotel rooms. They have to spend a lot of money to book for the whole night. This is where we come in. The solution that we are providing is the hourly rates, very, very robust, excellent customer support, And this is, like I said, it's a very, very good opportunity for the hotels also to monetize their empty rooms or late check-in and early checkout rooms. So this is the market demographic of, as we say, the TAM, SAM, and SOM. So if you see, as for Statista, 426.4 billion is the average hotel market. So which is our, you can say, the entire TAM. And if we consider only 10% of that in the short stay or micro stay segment, that comes to around 42 billion. And the SOM we can take as only 10% of that, which is still around 4.2 billion, which is a big market that we are trying to address.
Are you trying to do this in India, or are you trying to do this globally?
Globally, obviously, because we will see. I'll tell you what, Sumana. I was thinking of saying this later on, but we actually started this company in 2017, and from 17 till pre-COVID, we were operating almost in 112 countries with almost nearly 3,000 hotels on our platform. But then, unfortunately, due to COVID, this tourism sector was the worst hit sector, and you know. The investor, there was a Dubai-based investor who pulled out, became jittery, and so we kind of had to stop the whole thing at that point in time, because for 2 years there was no clarity what is going to happen, and nobody was traveling, and it was, the company was in a nascent state, but we got a lot of success.
You do have the company still.
We do have the company still. Yeah, it's a private limited company which was formed in Trivandrum, Kerala by Venu in 2017. And the company is still there, but it's in a dormant state. This operation is not happening. We still have the hotel tie-ups, but we are not renewing those tie-ups because we don't have the support system. We want to develop that. So this is, if you say the product showcase, this is a MVP website that we still have from the which is like not functional in the sense we don't have the hotel tie-ups. We are not going in for the hotel tie-ups, but once we have the mobile app ready, and we have a small team in place, we are going to renew the hotel connections, the already existing ones that we had, and then put in efforts to bring it.
I have a question about these hotel tie-ups that you had, 3,000 hotels. This is not a problem that can be solved purely from an online booking platform point of view. The hotels need to have the ability to do this hourly check-ins and so forth, because they need the cleaning supplies, cleaning chain, value chain of cleaning to get a room ready after a few hours. And they normally don't have that. Mostly hotels do not have that as part of their workflow. So these 3,000 hotels that you had tied up with, how many of them actually have that infrastructure to be able to work in this mode?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what, if you see India or other developing countries, and if you concentrate on the maybe 1, 2, and maximum 3-star hotels, okay, like we have got the Ginger chain, and there are so many chains in India. There are standalone hotels also. So these hotels, they have their internal staff for hotel for cleaning. When we talk about 4-star, 5-star, like the Marriott's and the Accor Group and the Hiltons, they will have maybe outsourced staff. And then when we talk about US, in particularly we have seen in US, and particularly now post COVID, people are not ready to work after 5 p.m. So it's very hard to find a janitor or a cleaning staff after 5 p.m. So we have been talking to hotels there also, and they are saying that it will be a challenge for us. But if you see Europe, we have got a lot of competitors. Like you said, the market is there. You have seen this concept. So microstay is a segment in which there's a company like Dayuse. Dayuse is going to be a next unicorn. They're almost 800 or 900 million dollars at this point in time. Very soon touching 1 billion. So that's a France-based company. They are operating in all across the world globally, in Asia, in Europe, and particularly LATAM. They're not touching America yet.
Question. You don't need to sell me on this concept. I know this segment. I have done case studies on this segment. I know this segment reasonably well. So I know there is a business there. I'm trying to address your situation. You have, you have a company that has been dormant for a while, but you built 3,000 hotel relationships. Try to understand the question I'm asking you. How many of those hotels have the capacity to do what you want them to do? Is to
most of them. I think all of them. That's why we were successful with them.
Okay. So
yeah.
So if you what would it take to get this business if you were doing business with them, yeah, before?
Yeah, we were doing business with them. So, like I said, till COVID, we had a Dubai-based, person who was supporting us with the finance, and then he pulled back. So now, Sumana, why we are approaching investors is basically we need some funding to develop the complete marketplace. This website is there, but it is an MVP website. But we need a full-fledged marketplace, e-commerce website, which will help in the booking. Plus, now at 2024, we need to have a mobile app, actually two apps for both iOS and Android. And we need to have a tie-up.
The problem is that's not what investors do. By and large, that's not what professional investors, institutional investors do. Professional angels don't do it, micro VCs don't do it, and professional VCs don't do it. This kind of investment you can only raise if it's a question of investment to write code and develop software and getting something going off the ground. That kind of investment can only come from friends and family. And for that, you're going to have to look in your own network. The stage that you're talking about, where you need money to write software and to get this business off the ground, that is not a fundable situation. Not by outside investors. This has to be within your friends and family network.
Okay.
So
you're saying that once we have traction, then we...
Hang on. I'm completely convinced about what you are doing. Because this business has been done elsewhere. It is a valid business model. People are doing it. There are certain things you have to be careful about, because this kind of hourly rental, especially hourly hotel booking, the minute you put something like this in a place like India, there's a very good chance it's going to develop a prostitution ring.
Yeah,
you have to be very careful about these kinds of things. But so I know this business, but the issue about your financing is that's not the situation that you're describing is not a financeable situation at the moment, where you are right now. So you have to figure out, either you have to finance it yourselves to get to a point where it becomes fundable, or you have to use friends and family, your network, so forth, to get the resources that you need to revamp this business and get it going. But do not operate under the assumption that this is a fundable situation.
Okay, so Sumana, just from your experience, once we start getting traction, you think that is the time when we should start approaching VCs and micro VCs?
Yeah.
Angel investors?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No.
So
we understand that. Yeah. And we are, parallelly doing that. We are slowly developing because the website is already there. We're developing the full-fledged marketplace, and we are also developing the mobile apps parallelly. It's not that we are just sitting and we are trying to only find investors. Parallelly, we are doing that also, and we are trying to renew the relationships
don't waste your time trying to find investors right now.
Okay.
They're not going to invest. This timing-wise, stage-wise, this is not a fundable situation. So don't waste time on investors. Focus on trying to get a business going. So you're going to have to bootstrap or raise friends and family money and get the business going. Now, how were you generating the customer side? Did you actually have business going, or did you just do these 3,000 relationships?
No. We actually had an office and a team based out of Trivandrum, wherein the company is registered, and we had sales managers based out of Bangalore, Chennai, the major cities across India. Bangalore was particularly a very successful business hub for us. So we, at the peak of let's say around 2019, we were doing almost 400 bookings a month. So yeah, we were actually getting business from customers.
Yeah. You're going to need to get back to getting business to happen.
Understood. You are saying the traction is needed, and then we should approach the investors.
There you have to make the judgment call of where you want to focus, because 3,000 hotels in 119 countries is not the way to build this business. You have to choose this is a two-sided marketplace kind of business, right? So it's an online travel agency for hourly booking. So you need both sides to happen for revenue to happen. So if you have an inventory of hotels in Bangalore, you need to develop the customer side of Bangalore. Instead of going and getting hotels in 119 locations, you need to focus on Bangalore, get both sides working, and maybe you really build up the Bangalore market, and that's your proof of concept, and that's where your revenues start to build up, get that really flowing, and then you can convince investors that, yeah, we've done it in Bangalore, and we've got Bangalore rolling. We can now bring up Mumbai, we can bring up Delhi, we can bring up Singapore, we can bring up Bangkok, whatever, but you can, you know, do it city by city, but don't go 119 hotels, countries, hotels in 3,000 hotels. It does nothing because the customer acquisition is going to be so expensive.
Yeah. True.
You're going to waste all your, I mean, you know, those 3,000 hotels are just going to sit there doing nothing, producing nothing.
You're right. Understood.
Okay. Anything else? Any questions?
No, I think I understand. I get the.
Good. Okay. I'm going to go and explain to you how to use 1M by1M. I do see a bunch of comments and questions in the public chat. Anthony is very active. Let's just check what Anthony is saying there. Anthony says we're creating an AI economic indicator using ChatGPT, fintech, blah, 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 working with economists. Okay. All right. So you are talking about what you're doing. Okay, great. Okay, so let's talk about 1 million by 1 million. And those of you who are here trying to figure out how to use the program, here's how to do it. 1Mby1M.com has everything. The entire program is virtual. Everything is accessible online. So you can go to 1M by1M and find everything there. And the website is very clear, very comprehensive. 1M by1M Premium is our full acceleration program. It's a $1,000 annual membership fee-based program. Anybody can join from anywhere in the world. You get weekly mentoring. You get investor introductions. There's a curriculum that is very powerful and has been used now, has been in the market since 2010. Lots of entrepreneurs have trained on this. And we also have another very particular thing, because as you know, I'm a top LinkedIn influencer. So as part of this, we also help you get the word out on what you're trying to do through my influence on LinkedIn in particular. Other platforms, yes, but LinkedIn is where we have unfair advantage. Now, we have got lots of requests for private consulting. So this is, we've always had the feature of private consulting. We never really emphasized it, but now that we have got so much of this interest, one-on-one consulting is also available. It's more expensive. So our recommendation is you start with premium, but it's okay for you to also use consulting. There is also 1M Basic, which is our curriculum only option. And these free roundtables happen every week. You can pitch once for free. After that, if you want ongoing mentoring, please join the premium program and you will have access to that. If you have questions about the program, Irina Patterson is your contact, irina@1mby1m.com. And that is all I have. If you have questions, please let me know. I'm monitoring the public chat for questions. If you want to talk, if you want to unmute your line and actually talk, you can do that too. Just let us know in public chat that you want to talk, and Maureen will put you on the panel and you can unmute your line and talk. So, question, anybody? It was a really interesting discussion with Jishnu today. And we've been having these AI investment thesis discussions every week now. So we've got a very good roster of discussions like that that have happened. So you can find all of them on our website. It's if you're doing an AI company in particular, which many of you are at the moment, it's these are useful insights to pay attention to. Okay, I don't see any other questions, so I will adjourn for today. We will see you next week. Bye. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.